everyone, this is Teresa from Base 10 Montessori, and today I am going to do an introduction video to Math Group 4, which is the exploration and memorization of math facts. And as you can see from the title, it's all about exploration and memorization. So I really want you to keep that in mind as we're going through these lessons. In this video, I'm going to give you a guided tour of all the lessons, and we're just going to cover the full journey of Math Group 4 in one video. So that way you can put it all together, look at it in context, and then what we'll do is we'll break it down into individual lesson videos. Before we begin, I just want to let everyone know that I have a playlist section, and on that playlist section, you will see a category for Math Group 4. So if you are looking for all the videos, make sure to check that out, and let me show you what that looks like really quickly. So here we are over on my Base 10 Montessori YouTube channel, and as you can see, there is a section called Playlists. Click on the playlists. You can scroll down and you're going to see all the different groups of videos that I have. So if you're looking for a full playlist of all my videos, that's the place to go. Also, I already have some videos available to watch for Math Group 4. I've done the addition snake game, both lessons. I've also done the addition strip board, both lessons. And I've also gone over the finger charts for addition, but I am going to redo this video because when I went back to look at it, I thought, geez, this is awful. This looks terrible. So I really want to do a better job at it. So I will be remaking that video, but it's there for right now. So you'll be able to go to the playlist right now and see addition snake game, the addition board, and also the subtraction snake game. And I've got both lessons available for that. So there are some videos already available in that playlist. So the new videos that I will be making for this math group are going to be the addition and subtraction boards plus the finger charts. Then we're going to do the multiplication bead bar layout. We're going to do the multiplication board and the charts, as well as the division unit board and the charts as well for division. So those will be the videos that I'm coming out with. As usual, extra resources will be available on Locals for my subscribers. My Locals members will have access to a Math Group 4 study guide and a math sequence chart. And that fee for right now is $2 a month. I wanted to keep it very low, very reasonable, but also still helps support the work that I've been doing. All my links will be available in the comment section below the video. So let's just do a little introduction to what this math group is all about. These lessons emphasize memorization and exploration of the function and operations involved in math. The age range for this group of materials is 5 to 6 years old, and we will get more into that as we go along. When we think about the purpose of Math Group 4, I want you to keep these 4 points in mind. The first purpose is to introduce different number combinations for operations. The second purpose is to assist in the memorization of operations and math facts. The third purpose is to solidify the process of operations. And the fourth purpose is to prepare the child for abstract thinking in math. In order for us to go and do more complex work, to do more complex math, we have to have this foundation of memorization. We have to have these math facts readily available. And traditional schools tend to do this through a lot of flashcards. Well, in Montessori, we don't do that. We don't really take that approach. We want to start off with something very, very concrete, and we want to work our way to the abstract. So there is a process involved when it comes to the memorization of math facts, and it always has to start with exploration. And that exploration is very concrete, and you're going to see that process through this math group. The purpose of the materials is to help the child explore the process and function of each operation, as well as the possibilities and limitations. The other purpose of the materials is to demonstrate to the child that there is a relationship between operations. For example, division is the opposite of multiplication. So when you're thinking about whether or not your student or your child is understanding the work, or if they're doing the work in a way that you feel is purposeful and relevant, I want you to ask yourself these questions. Is the child allowed to explore the materials? Is the child memorizing the math facts? Do they see the possibilities and limitations in these operations? So these are the things that need to go through your mind when you're evaluating how your student and how your child is doing. And if they're using the materials a little bit differently than you present, this will help you evaluate whether or not your child or your student is being purposeful with the materials, even if they're using it just a little bit differently. And I want you to keep that in mind. You might present the material in one way to your student, and they might do something slightly different. If the thing that they're doing is different, we don't want to intervene if it is still purposeful. So always, always, always in AMI Montessori, we keep in mind the purpose of the experience, the purpose of the materials, the purpose of the lessons. And if the child is being exploratory with the materials and not abusing them, not breaking them, and also working towards the purpose of the lessons, that's what we want to see. That's a good thing. So just keep that in mind, that these materials are meant for exploration, and your child should have the freedom to explore these materials as long as they're being respectful and purposeful. So let's talk just a little bit more about the theory. Except for division, each operation in this series begins with a concrete exploration before moving on to operations with booklets and written equations. So when we're talking about that concrete exploration, we're talking about the addition snake game, the subtraction snake game, and the multiplication bead bar layout, or the decanomial bead box. These are your concrete lessons that are very exploratory. And once we introduce those, then we move into the booklets and the equations. But the exploration part comes first. And I want you to keep that in mind with these concrete materials, these concrete beginnings with the snake game and the bead bar layout. We're moving to abstraction, but before we get there, we have to have a concrete experience and exploration. Only then can we expect our students to succeed with that abstract portion. And this is what makes Montessori brilliant. This is what makes Montessori amazing when it comes to math. So with that being said, let's talk about the addition materials and lessons. I already have some videos out in my playlist, and the snake game is one of them. So we start out the addition lessons with the snake game, this concrete experience, and there are 2 lessons. And there are 2 control of errors, and I have videos on both of those lessons and the control of errors in the videos that I have out already. Once our students have gone through those lessons, and you don't necessarily have to do both lessons before starting on the addition board, do the first snake game, watch them experience that, manipulate that, make sure they're comfortable with that, and then you can go ahead and introduce the addition board. And then later on, if you want, you can come back and introduce that second variation of the addition snake game. So you get through the snake game, and then you'll move on to the addition boards, and there are 2 different lessons there. You have a booklet, and then you have a lesson on essential combinations. And you do have a control of error for the addition board, and that is finger charts 1 and 2. And we'll get more into that as we go along in our video series. Just be aware that in addition, there are 6 different charts. The first 2 charts are used as a control chart to check work. And then the last ones, the other 4, are really very exploratory. In fact, one of the charts was actually developed by a child and not Maria Montessori. So that's a little interesting fact that goes back to what I was saying before of, if your child is using this a little bit differently, if your student is using this a little bit differently than what you've presented, but it fulfills the purpose and they're being exploratory, if they come up with something different that fulfills the purpose, we're going to encourage that. That is what we want to see. And in fact, children can think up things that are so brilliant, it surpasses what an adult comes up with. And we will go over that as we go through the finger charts. Now let's talk about subtraction materials and lessons. So the subtraction snake game is where we start on our subtraction lessons in Math Group 4. I also have these videos available in the playlist already. There are 2 lessons for subtraction snake game, but unlike addition, there's only 1 control of error. So we have 2 lessons and 1 control of error to show for this lesson. Then we move on to the subtraction board. Introduce the subtraction snake game just that first lesson. You don't need to do both lessons before you introduce the subtraction board. Introduce the first lesson, get them comfortable working with it. You can then introduce the subtraction board. And then later on, if you want, you can always go back and show that second lesson on the subtraction snake game. I will admit, I don't usually show the second lessons. I don't often get around to showing that second lesson on either the addition or subtraction, unless I feel like the students are really excited about going back to the snake game. Sometimes they'll move past that snake game so quickly that you really miss the window of opportunity for that second lesson and it doesn't resonate with them. So don't feel like you have to do it, but it is interesting and some students will enjoy it, some students won't. So as long as you are introducing that first snake game lesson, I wouldn't worry too much about the second unless you feel as though it would be really beneficial for your students. So when it comes to the subtraction board, it's going to be very similar to the addition board. You're going to have 2 lessons. You're going to have the booklet and essential combinations, and you're going to have a control of error, and that's going to be finger chart 1. Notice that the addition charts have more. In the subtraction finger charts, we have 3 different charts. And chart 1 is the control of error. That is the chart for checking work. So when your student goes to experience the subtraction lessons, they're going to notice there's more limitations on this. There's already a limitation to how we can use subtraction compared to all of the addition charts. Now let's talk about multiplication, materials, and lessons. Now, I absolutely love the Bead Bar Layout. But I will admit this does not always translate to my students. I don't see them always having the same passion that I have for this, but I love the decanomial box of beads. I can't wait to get my hands on it when I open that box. I can't wait to build things with the beads when I open that box. And so I always assume that my students feel the same way, but I will admit that not all students take to this lesson as enthusiastically as I do. But there are 3 lessons that you can do with this. And the first presentation is just simply showing an introduction to multiplication, just showing what it looks like to build the same number over and over again. The next lesson is multiplying by 10. And then the third lesson is finding combinations of the same quantity. So we've got 3 different lessons here that we're going to go over. And notice there is no control of error for this lesson. This is completely exploratory. So we're not interested in them checking their work for this one. This is just an exploration, and figuring out whether or not they understand it is simply based upon your observation. So make sure to spend time observing your classroom, observing your students, maybe in a way that they don't feel like they're being watched, right? We just want to give them a chance to feel like they can explore without us interfering. And then once we have introduced this to them, they can go on to the multiplication board, and there's just 1 lesson for that. And there is a control of error. We can use the finger charts 1 and 2, just like in addition. And in this operation, there are 5 finger charts. Notice there's just 1 less than the addition, so it's very similar. And the first 2 charts are used as a control of error to check work. So again, this goes back to exploration, limitations, all the possibilities, all the different combinations. And we are going to show how they are similar and how they are different. Let's talk about the division materials and lessons, because this is a little bit different. Now, when it comes to that concrete experience that happens before we start working with the equations in the other operations, division doesn't have that. We're just going to go straight into the unit division board, and there are 4 lessons. We have our introductory first presentation, which really shows the limitations and possibilities with this unit board. And then we go into the booklet, we go into finding combinations, and then we have a lesson on comparing division with multiplication. There are 3 control of errors for the division board, but the first 2 are multiplication charts, and then the last one is the division chart. And why do we do this? Because we want to show the relationship between operations. We want to show them how we can go backwards to use the multiplication charts. And in division, there's only two charts. There is the control chart and then there's the blank chart. Chart 1 is the control of error, but like I said, we can use multiplication to also show a control of error. So that is the overview of Math Group 4. That's the purpose. That is the pathway, the journey that they're going to take. Those are the materials that we are going to use. And in my next video, I'm going to talk exclusively about materials, what materials are affordable, which ones are expensive but maybe better quality, and I will go over what's available on Amazon for an in-between price. So with that being said, that is all I have for you today. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.